So, I love this quote, life is a journey, not a destination. And so many times we judge ourselves and our success based upon the destination. And actually having it come prematurely. And I think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner or business executive, this happens a lot. Where we're rushing to the destination without allowing the journey to take place and to happen. I've started probably 10 or 12 companies. I helped start Usana Health Sciences, which is, we've done about $18 billion in sales. We're a global company. I've been the CEO for years. We're a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. I'm the chairman of the board for the company. But I'm also a musician. And people ask me all the time, one, how can you still be a musician and run a global company? But two, what is the difference between somebody who's high performing that you see in your company or in companies or in the music world? And there are a lot of parallels. There are a lot of things that are common between that. And so I want to share with you just 3 points today, very briefly, of what I think really makes a difference between a successful business person, entrepreneur, employee, whatever you might be, and one that might just be okay and one that might not make it. And these 3 points for me, you could go in very deep on each one of them, but I'm just going to move very quickly. So here's where I grew up. I grew up in Montana, Kalispell, Montana. That was a look out my bedroom window. Not a whole lot of people you could see there. So how does somebody go from growing up here in a small town in Montana to being the CEO of a global company, having started 2 companies that have been acquired by public companies. Currently, I'm running 3 other companies that are mine. On top of this last week, I was on tour. I fly into Nashville, get on the tour bus. Colin Ray, some of you might know him, some of you don't. He's got a lot of #1 hits. Get on the bus, we go play shows, I commute home. This time last week, I was in Ohio on this day, playing a show. So how do you do that? This is my family. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My dad's a World War II veteran. And this is outside our house. I now have 4 kids. They're all married. They're not all independent, but they're all married, right? And now I'm a grandpa of 7. Wow. I'm telling you, if you're not a grandparent, you won't know it till you get it. But there's a love there like you've never experienced before. A true unconditional love. So like I said, I'm a musician. This is me as a kid. This is the beginnings of the very first band I ever played, and that's me back on the drums. And at that time, when I was that age, my friends would come home and play ball and do things outside. I would go straight downstairs and practice my music. And when I was this age, in this environment, in my basement, playing through a stereo system, in my mind's eye, when I would sleep at night, I would think about standing on stage in front of thousands of people playing music. That was the vision I could see in my brain. And my friends thought I was crazy because I was headed downstairs to practice music instead of outside playing sports and doing those kinds of things. But I'm here to tell you, if you don't like the practice, in other words, if you don't like the work, you're doing the wrong thing. If you're starting a company and you don't like what you do every day, your chances of success are going to be very slim. I've seen it over and over. If one of the rules we had with our kids was, if they didn't like to practice a musical instrument, we didn't pay for the lessons. because it requires that to master something, that passion. This is me about 16 years old, standing in my bedroom. You can see the poster in the back, and that poster is the band Styx. Now, Styx is one of my favorite bands, and when I was that age, I learned all of their music. And one of the key songwriters is Tommy Shaw. And again, in my mind's eye, my dream was I would go to a Styx concert, they would need a fill-in player, and they would point to me, and I'd jump up on stage and play in the band, right? That was something I used to dream about. But I could see it. I could see it. Well, fast forward a few years. There's Tommy Shaw from Styx playing. Look who's in the background. And we're playing the Usana Amphitheater for probably 20,000 plus people out there with Tommy Shaw. But my point being, vision. I saw that day happening when I was a little kid. I saw those days. I could see it in my mind's eye. I would in my mind rehearse. To this day when I go out on stage, before I go out, I rehearse the songs. And literally, I could rehearse on an airplane without a guitar in my hands. Because mentally you go through things mentally before you go through them physically. Since then, I've played the Grand Ole Opry several times. I've been on stages around the world. I've been in Kenny Loggins' band. A lot of different things. That's in China. The point being, love what you do, but you have to do the work. And if you don't do the work and love the work, do something else. If you have people who are working for you, it's important that they love the culture and the environment, or they won't do the work. And that's higher on the scale on national statistics than pay. Environment and culture is higher than what people get paid. And so think about that as you're creating your company and your culture. So vision, I believe, is just an indispensable leadership quality that you must develop. I love this quote by Helen Keller, and you know she was blind, she was deaf, and she said this: the only thing worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision. So how many times do you see people that are actually blind, although they have sight? And you know, sometimes, I don't care what you say to somebody, they're never going to see it. True leadership is helping people see it, helping them see what you do, and then helping them help others to have a vision. And if you don't have a vision written down for you and or your company, and something that people who work with you can automatically respond to and recite, I think you've got a problem. Vision is different than strategy. It's different than tactics. Vision is much different. It's much bigger. But what you can see in your mind's eye, man, I could see me on stage with Tommy Shaw. And it happened, right? And so I wrote a book, and the whole point of the book was when I had my first grandchild. I was holding that little baby, and I looked at her, and I'm thinking, I don't have a whole lot of life left. I've got a chunk, but in her world. And when she grows up and her children grow up, is she going to know who her grandpa was and what he cared about and the experiences he had?
Come on!
Right?
Woo!
So I thought, okay, I heard a quote, if you don't write stuff down, it will only take 2 generations to be as though you never lived on the earth. And your name is just a name on a spreadsheet if you don't write things down. And so I started this project with my grandkids in mind, thinking, okay, what do I want them to know about Grandpa? I didn't start it off as a book. Wasn't even thinking about it, but it turned into that. And think about that from your perspective. What do you want your posterity and your family to learn and know? One of my goals for this year, speaking of posterity, is for me to find joy in my posterity. See, I have a couple older kids that are way off the rails, struggling like crazy. I mean, they are really having a hard time. And I have a hard time finding joy in them right now. It's really hard. Because it's turning my life upside down right now. It has been for quite a while. So a goal for me this year is, how can I find joy in my daughter? Even though she's doing about everything that I wouldn't want her to do and she wasn't trained to do, and she's going to be 30. Right? So this whole joy thing and finding joy in life, music is just sound. It's just air, right? Music's just air. And when you play a musical note on an oscilloscope, you can actually see the waves. And so when you play a chord, the waves are all congruent. They go like, follow a pattern when they're in harmony. If you play notes that are dissonant, meaning they're not in harmony, they don't have the congruent waves, the sound dissonance happens. I thought about that in life. Do you have harmony in your life? Me. How do I create that harmony, and what is creating dissonance in my life? And how do I overcome that dissonance, because I want harmony? And the number one thing that I have come up with are values. See, values are our guiding principle. And each one of us in this room have a core value set. They'll be different for all of us, but if you have not identified and know what your core values are, I don't think you're going to be as successful as an entrepreneur and business person, husband, father, whatever, if you're not in tune with your value system. Because that then becomes the measure on based upon decisions that you'll make, that becomes the measure as your business, as you move forward. Usana, an example, we had a huge batch of drinks that we found some little microbes in through testing. They came to me, they said, Kevin, we got millions of dollars of products here. We can actually microwave, basically, and kill the microbes, but it'll kill some of the nutrients in the product. We could actually just sell it, and almost for sure, nobody will ever know. Or we throw it away. Well, one of our core stated values that you saw tonight is integrity. So how could we live true to that core value as a company if I said, you know what, let's just sell it? We threw it away. No question, because we knew what our core values were, and our employees knew what they were. So, do you know who you are? Which might sound like a dumb question, but if you haven't, I would challenge you to look at, study values, and identify what your core 4 or 5 values are. And for your business, same thing. It is very critical. Again, these are things that are nuances that I see between successful people and not so successful people. All the successful people that I can think of know their value system. They know their values and know what their company values are about. So understanding who you are will change what you do. I love reading, and one of my favorites is the Harvard Business Review. I would encourage you to go read this article, but I'm going to hit a few points because I think this is really the punchline of my message. For employees that I've seen lose their job, for companies that I've seen go out of business, for musicians that I've seen get fired from their job on the road with acts, this is what they don't understand: emotional intelligence. So you can have vision, you can have values, But emotional intelligence is the key, in my opinion, to success in the world. And it is so important. And Harvard Business Review identified 5 steps, but I love this. The great leaders, what establishes from the good ones are those who are emotionally intelligent. This emotional intelligence, I can't stress enough. As a CEO of a huge company and running my own business, I have to tell you, we were looking to acquire a company. It was a $200 million deal, acquisition. A guy that started his company, it was his dream. What does he do? He comes in and he's not emotionally intelligent in the meeting, and he totally sabotaged the whole deal. And we were sitting there ready to write a check. This is very important stuff. And, performance is so key. And again, it says that those who understand emotional intelligence outperformed their peers by 20%. So here are the 5 skills I'm going to go through real quick. Self-awareness. You see people who aren't self-aware. This is so critical to your success as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as an employee, as a husband, as a father, as a boyfriend, girlfriend. You need to know your strengths and weaknesses, but you also have to understand how you impact others. Right? Next one, very important, self-regulation. Can you control those things in your life that are disruptive? No. That's hard, right? That's some of those bears. Right? You're being honest. You said, no, this is a big one. But for those people who really can regulate themselves, really have a hand up on others. And we all have disruptive behaviors in our lives that we should be aware of and working on. Next, motivation. Relishing just for the sake of relishing it. How are you motivated? Again, surround your people who are motivated. You all are motivated, I know that, because you're here. Right? You're doing something that most of the world isn't willing to do, which is give up your time to move forward, right? But as a musician, there are no good musicians who don't put in the work and aren't motivated and don't stand out in their garage for hours trying to learn something. Because that's me, right? Even to this day. Last night I was with a group of guys. We were practicing. But you have to be motivated. Next one. This is probably the biggest one. From a business perspective, also just in life, empathy. Can you truly empathize with others? And this is an important part because you want to listen to understand, not listen to respond. And so many times we as business owners, entrepreneurs, we're trying to respond versus understand and knowing our audience. Empathy is so critical on so many levels. I think the key to a great leader is also just learning how to ask questions and asking the right questions. One of the things that I do, if we're going to hire an officer, I take the prospective person out to lunch. This happens every time, wherever it is in the world, they go to lunch with me. And if they don't treat the waiter or waitress with utmost respect, I don't care what their qualifications are, they are not getting hired. Right? That's empathy, and that's treating people you don't know that really can't do anything for you with respect and understanding. And that's part of being a successful business person, in my opinion. Next one, your social skills, building rapport. There are people in this room that I've met like this. We built great rapport with each other. So I just want to read this. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. Can you imagine that, missing 9,000 shots? I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I was asked to take a game-winning shot, and I missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Failure is part of the equation of what you guys are all about. It's what we're all about, right? But we have to take the shot. Michael Jordan wasn't afraid to take the shot. And when it came down to it and the ball came to him, there was no question. The shot was going up and being taken. And many of you in this room are taking the shot. Right? I looked at the statistics from the National Small Business Administration. 30% of companies that start right now will never break even. Another 30% will go out of business and not even have the opportunity to look at break even. So 60% of small businesses started will not be profitable and make money. That's real. That's what you all need to think about, but you still have to take the shot. And I think the number one word that should be under entrepreneur is risk. Risk. And sometimes it's your whole family, and sometimes it's everything on the line. So I would encourage you to do the work. Work harder than anybody else. Do that work because you have passion for the work. And if you don't have passion, do something else. Right? Have vision. See where you're going to go and where this is all heading for you. Do it in a very, very integral way that starts with a foundation of values. Right? Your values. And then look at emotional intelligence. If you dial that in, you'll be more successful than you ever thought you could be. I've seen that over and over and over. So your future is created by what you do today. It's how you are, what kind of person you are, and what you want to be and what you want to choose to be. See, this kid from Montana, I'm no smarter than anybody in this room. I'm really not. This musician who gets to play all these great venues and everything, I'm not the best musician by any stretch. But nobody will ever outwork me. And nobody will never be as aware of their social intelligence skills as me. That's a goal that I have. That's a challenge that I offer to all of you. My favorite poem in the world, and I'll end with this, is written by Edgar A. Guest. And for those who want to be successful in business, if you want to be successful in anything in your life, I think this is really profound. It says, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I'd rather one would walk with me than merely show the way. The eye is a better pupil and much more willing than the ear. To hear fine counsel is confusing, but your example is always clear. I may misunderstand you and the high advice you give, but there's no misunderstanding how you act and how you live. Please, act and live in a way that is in harmony with your core values. Do that and you will find success on many levels, more than just in the bank account. I know it, I've lived it, I've seen it. Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.